We are officially live. Here we are. Yes, we are here
Okay.
into our new Juju live session with Mr. Jorge Sawa, my second time guest. Actually, my third time guest because we did one Facebook Live, we did a webinar. We're about to do a workshop and an entire course. So now this is the third time you're coming into our platform, and thank you again for being here. And this Juju live session is going to be about the importance of music for dancers, why it is important. I have a few questions selected for us, and we're also gonna let people know about our upcoming workshop that is going to be focused on Laylat Hob, one of Kulthum's iconic songs. But more about that later. We will tell you about the workshop at the end of the Juju live session. I want to welcome whoever is watching us live to join us, drop comments, and share your doubts, your questions. Otherwise, we have a lot to answer here. So once more, ahlan wa sahlan. Thank you, Mr. Jorge, for being here with me. For the ones who don't know you yet, could you introduce yourself quickly so that our viewers know a little bit more about you and where your work is coming from?
Okay, I was born in Egypt, Alexandria, and I was lucky to have studied piano and qanun. And I lived in the wonderful golden era, or the end of the golden era of music and dance in Egypt. Sort of called the last generation. Samia Gamal, Tahe Kario, Naim Akif, composers like Farid Al-Atrash, Abdel Wahab, Stombati, of course, Kulthum. And then I decided to study the history of Arabic music. I want to know the root of all this wonderful music. So for this, I had to migrate to Canada, because Canada is a rich country. They have universities, libraries, a lot of resources that we don't have in Egypt. And I spent a lot of time researching this amazing tradition. And I've been doing this for 50 years. And I need another 200 years to cover just up to the 10th century in medieval Baghdad. It's so rich.
I can imagine. You always feel like there is more to know than what you know. I mean, compared, you feel, oh my God, I'm just starting, but I've been doing this for a while. So, so for the ones who don't know me yet, let me also introduce myself quickly. I've started my career in Egypt, where I was performing with my orchestra for 8 years. I was also working with Mahmoud Reda, the father of Egyptian folklore. I was studying at first with Mahmoud, and then we started collaborating. He was pretty much a part of my life. I've worked around the world in the biggest festivals of Egyptian dance and Egyptian folklore. I've written and published 2 books, opened a global platform for dances, a school, and there is so much more to come then also. Now, let's launch our theme. And the first question, it's like an introduction question, which is, how important is the music for dancers? What do you think? Is music that important? And this is a good question. Why? Not only because it is a question I receive very frequently, but also because we live in a time where dancers are obsessed with movement, with performance, with action. And in my experience, in my observation, there is not enough training in listening, in musical appreciation, music knowledge. We have a lot of dancers who know a lot of movements, but they don't know anything about the music they dance to. And this is a problem. This is a problem. But I want to pick your brain on this. Do you think music is that important, and why is important for Oriental dancers? Why is this important?
Well, you don't want to insult the culture by not understanding the music and the lyrics. I've seen dancers moving their hips to songs praising God and the Prophet, and that will really upset people in the Middle East. You don't do that. Also, if you don't understand the rhythm and just think of series of beats, this is not how the rhythm is designed. you have the taqsim of the rhythm, sectioning. These are what we call compound rhythm and disjunctive rhythm. They're made of parts. It's not like ta ra 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 ra. No, it does not go this way. You go have short, long, very long, short, whatever. You have a pattern of durations. That's what's called the sectioning of the musical bar. The 10/8 is 3 plus 2 plus 5. It's not 10 equal beats. No, it's 3 section of 3, section of 2, section of 5. And that is the how you cut that particular rhythm. That's how the composer composed. That's how the performers perform. And that's how the dancer dance. They have to understand the inner structure of the iqah. And then you have the maqam. In North America, they make a very big issue out of it. If you ask Samia Gamal or Suhair Zaki or
Yeah.
Ish Abdo, do you know the maqam that you get lost? What maqam?
No,
نعم ايوه نعم
no.
yeah. All you need to know about the maqam is when there's this change of maqam, because that signal a new section, a new music, and maybe new movement. But don't think that maqam such will make you dance this way, maqam such will make you dance another way. That's totally stupid. That's not true. But people make workshops out of it. They make a living out of it. They confuse people, and that's not necessary.
Hmm.
Also, they have this misconception of maqam having a character, and this go back to ancient Greece and medieval Baghdad. These are theories done by armchair people. They are not musicians. They're not good musicians. They don't understand. They create a theory and it's beautiful. This maqam is sad, this maqam is happy. That's utter nonsense. It's what you do with the maqam. The lyrics, the melodic movement, the melodic motive, these are sections of melody, not the whole melody. That makes the maqam. Then, of course, the lyrics. Make sure you understand not the general meaning of the song, but what every word means. So you don't dance the wrong movement to the wrong word.
I think, there is like a misconception because dancers believe the only relationship they need to build when they study dance is with movement. They see music as something apart, something extra, very often something they will eventually have to deal with if somebody calls their attention to it. But it's like a secondary thing in the mind of most dancers, even professional dancers I've met.
I know.
They don't realize that the music is an essential part of their development, and it's a kind of relationship that you have to build perhaps before you build a relationship with movement.
Yes.
And I mean before you start to move, you have to listen. Before you take conclusions on what style is this, what mood is this, how do I want to move to this, it is essential that they are able to listen
Yeah.
from a deep emotional level.
Yes.
But most dancers are not trained that way. So hopefully we're going to change that in our upcoming workshop, and especially in the course that in a second I'm going to tell you all about. Now, another question that I'm going to read. What is the criteria for the choice of music in Egyptian dance? And this is referring to dancers. So I'm a dancer and I need to choose a musical piece, let's say for a show, for a performance, or for a competition. What is the criteria that is going to tell me this is a good music to dance to and this is not? What do you think?
Well, it has to do with your taste. It has to do, like, if you have a competition about Oriental dance, don't dance something that's melody or folkloric. You have to know your audience. That's very important. Make sure you choose good music, but you have to have the ear to choose the good music from the bad music. Also, there's a lot of fusion. As early as the 30s, عبد الوهاب بيتر فريد الأطرش, there's a lot of fusion. So some parts are not Egyptian at all. They may be Spanish, they may be Latino, they may be American, Dr. Zhivago, whatever.
Yeah.
Film music. Make sure your choreography changes with the musical style that you're listening to. And it's usually a compact, a juxtaposition of styles to have a lot of contrast. Most Kulthum songs from the 60s onward are composed that way. And the introduction is very long so that the composer makes money when Kulthum sings or when Suhir Zaki dance. He makes double money. Yeah.
Mhm. I really love this question because it is a very practical question. And so
Yeah.
many dancers in the school, in the work, in festivals approach me in my private coaching a lot. And very often I help dancers to choose a musical piece, especially if they're going to compete or if there is a special performance.
Yeah.
And the first thing I tell them is, first of all, you have to know what is the music for, because it is different to dance for myself or to dance in a competition or to dance in a theater or to dance in a workshop. These are different requirements. For instance, in competitions, dancers must know they are going to be judged according to very specific criteria.
Yeah.
In most cases, we're talking about technical level, presentation, charisma, choreography, communication with the audience. I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on the competition, but usually there are like criteria, points
Yeah.
that they're gonna be judged by. And if the dancer does not have that in consideration, she or he will not choose a song accordingly. So if I know that I'm going to perform or I'm going to compete, and I know what is expected of me, I have to choose a music that gives me what I need.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that I love a song. I love a song, and this happens many times. People come to me and say, Joana, I'm doing this song in a competition. Beautiful. But the song does not offer enough opportunities for shifts of movements,
Yes.
shifts of moods, shifts of
Yeah.
emotions. The music is beautiful, no doubt, but it's not gonna benefit the dancer on stage.
Very
So
true.
it's a double thing, which is, it's so important, as you said, that we love the music. This is the first thing. Like, if you don't love the music, don't do it, because you're not going to feel it. And if you're not going to feel it, there is no way you're going to dance to it in a nice way.
Exactly.
This is absolutely sure. But then liking the music is not enough. You have to like the music and have to see, what does this music allow me to do as a dancer?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Very
What
important.
is it here in this material that allows me to shine as a dancer, especially if we're talking about a competition or a
Exactly.
performance on stage? So those are important criteria. And also, as you said, having good taste, but that's very relative and it's very personal, right? I mean, what is good taste, and what is great music? Maybe for me, I'm talking about Said El Darwish and I say, wow, it's the top, or Ali Ismail, and you tell me, no, 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 Juju, no, 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 I prefer Farid El Atrash. Who is right? I mean, in the end,
Exactly. It's matter of
nobody is
taste.
right. It's personal taste,
Yeah.
it's your own references, your own musical education. And
Yeah.
another thing you said that I really think is important, and that dancers in Egyptian dance tend to ignore, especially in the fusion music, in the modern Egyptian music of Abdul Wahab, for instance, it's precisely that when we listen to modern Egyptian music, we're not only listening to Egyptian music, we're listening to a mix of influences. And if the dancer does not know what she or he is listening to, something is going to fail.
Yes.
I'm going to give an example that is it's happening right now. So we're having a modern shabi course at Joana Saahirah's online dance school. And when I was making an introduction to modern shabi music, the shabi music people are doing nowadays, the merengue style, the stuff that kids do on computers, synthesizers and mixing elements, hip
Yeah.
hop elements and Western elements, Eastern elements. I was mentioning a few influences that you can witness, that you can identify in modern shabi music.
Yeah.
Music from the Mawalid,
Oh,
You
you're right.
will often see
You're right.
this in modern shabi. I see. Who would think, these are a bunch of kids in computers with synthesizers creating tunes. Yeah, but they're also bringing references from the Mawalid.
Yes,
They're also bringing Zar rhythm. They're also bringing Sufi influences. What? See, but this is modern shabi. Yeah, but all of those influences are there. So
exactly.
if I am not a good listener, and if I don't have the references that allow me to identify what I'm listening to, I will probably make a big mess out
Yes,
of something that could be really interesting
yes,
and
you're
really
right.
rich.
Absolutely right.
So this is true for modern shabi. It is true for Muhammad Abdul Wahab and Abdul Halim.
Yes,
These singers, these composers who brought this cocktail of influences to Egyptian music.
yeah.
So the better listener you are, the more educated listener you are,
Educated, yes.
the better dancer you can be.
Of course, of course.
And
It's
this is
very important.
something that dancers have to understand eventually. It's it takes its time, but we're
Mhm.
gonna get there. Now, what is the most important element in the music for a dancer? What do you think is the most important element in the music for a dancer?
I think there is not one element, Juju. It's a compact of elements to make a united whole. Very important. Watch the lyrics, watch the tempo, watch the drumming, the ornamental drumming, the drum pattern, the shift in tempo, shift in the pattern of the drum, shift in maqam, uh, lyrics again, the music itself. Watch if you play to a taksim, watch the cadence. Make sure to finish with the taksim. Watch what we call the broken sequences. Because if you have everything the same, it's no longer a nice taksim. You have to break the sequence, create a pattern. Watch for these patterns. It's very complex. You can do it by instinct, like Egyptian dancers do, or if you're not born with the music, then you study it, and then you can do very well.
I do believe that instinct is underrated in the West.
Yes,
As you mentioned, Egyptian dances, most of them do it instinctively. So they never wonder, what am I using? Am I using the rhythm? Am I going to focus on the melody? Am I going to focus on a specific instrument or the lyrics? This is not the kind of question that an Egyptian dancer will think about. I don't think so.
they just
They
dance.
just do it. Yeah, they just do it. If you ask them how they do it, they don't know how they do it. They just do it.
Exactly.
That's it. Um, in the West, I think this is a good, what I'm about to say, it's a good thing and a bad thing. We think too much.
Exactly.
أفكر كتير يعني too
Then
much.
it shows in your dance because it's not
It
fluid.
shows طبعا, of
Not
course it
fluid.
shows. Yeah, it shows. And the good side of it is that we are really respectful of the music and we want to make it right. And
Yes,
this is also why so many Western dancers think a lot and they don't listen to the music instinctively because they're worried. What if I'm missing something? What if I'm not getting it? What if I'm do a mistake? What if I am disrespecting the music, disrespecting the culture? And this is a good thing because it speaks about the respect
yeah,
so many of us have for Egyptian dance and culture. But at the same time, it's a big limitation. And we are sold this idea that if you're not born Egyptian, you cannot feel instinctively. And this is such a big lie. It is a lie. Of course, if I am born listening to Kulthum, yani, masalam, example, chances are, as an adult, I am more familiar with this music. It is
yeah,
part of my system, of course, but it doesn't mean that if I come later to the music, because I wasn't born in Egypt, because I wasn't raised listening to these songs, it doesn't mean I will never feel it instinctively. A lot of Western dancers feel the music instinctively, and a lot of Egyptian dancers don't. So we like to make rules and generalize, but the thing is, um, listening instinctively to the music and feeling where you want to focus at every single second is not perhaps what dancers want to hear me say, because they want a formula, they want
Exactly.
something that guides them.
Yeah.
But what I usually tell my students is there is a lot in Egyptian dance that we cannot teach. There is a lot I can teach, and there is a lot I cannot teach, because it's already inside the person. I cannot teach you how to feel enta omri. I can't teach you how to feel it. You will feel it in your own way. You are a human being. You have your own heart.
Yeah.
I don't own or manage your heart. Yani, I cannot teach a student how to feel. This you must feel like that. That you must
Exactly.
feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. The same way, I cannot teach you how to feel instinctively, because you already have it. But dancers believe they don't. So they think too much, analyze too much, complicate too much. you know,
Complicate too much. That's it.
complicate too much. And sometimes, I just tell, when a dancer asks me this question, where should I focus? Because I'm listening to rhythm, I'm listening to the melodic instruments, I'm listening to the lyrics. Where is my focus? I say, just close your eyes, feel the music, and see what is pulling you from within. And sometimes the focus will be on the lyrics.
Yeah.
Maybe just one word hits me, and it's there. The focus is there. Sometimes it's more of the rhythm and then the melody, and it goes from one point to the other. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's the combination of all these elements at
Yeah.
the same time. But there is not a fixed formula
Correct. Correct.
that works for everybody and for every
Yeah.
music. It's
Very true.
really,
Very true.
really very instinctive,
Yes.
and very much depending on our mood
That too. That too.
also,
The
right?
audience also. If you have a dead audience, they'll kill you. They will kill you.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a
True.
friend, an Egyptian friend. He passed away long ago. He played lute from his heart, and he's used to have Egyptian audience. But we played in this expensive Moroccan restaurant, and the audience was Canadian, very Anglo, and they're very polite. They listen very quietly. And then he said to me, "You know what? This restaurant is going to give me a disease not even written in the books." He didn't
Well,
feel happy. So I said, "Just
I'm
look at
sure.
me.
I'm
I'm
sure.
your audience. Be happy."
I still believe Egyptian audiences are the best in the world.
Yeah.
I apologize for everybody else. I don't mean this in a negative way. I have to be sincere. So, Egyptian audiences are the most demanding,
Yeah.
but they are also the most knowledgeable and the most loving of the music and of the dance. So when a dancer is great, when an orchestra is great, they're going to feel the appreciation,
Yes.
and they're going to feel the feedback in a way that you don't see anywhere else. It is so, so beautiful. And another thing that I would like to add here about the focus in the music, and something that I noticed, is that dancers don't take time to listen before they move. What I usually tell my students is, instead of jumping into the movement too quickly, almost like a compulsion, why don't you take a few seconds, perhaps even a minute, to connect to the music, to feel the music? I remember that when I was performing with my musicians, uh, I used to do this 90% of the times, not every time at every music, but especially when it was uh, sophisticated music, hard music. What I would do, I would give my back to the audience for a few seconds. I would turn myself to the musicians, close my eyes, and listen to the beginning of the music before I start dancing. Those were
Wow.
like seconds where I was getting into the mood, feeling the musicians, feeling the music, and instinctively receiving guidance.
That's it. It guides you. It guides
It
you.
got
Absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. But I had to take that time to just listen. If I jumped immediately into action, as dancers usually do, especially on stage, people are watching, and they don't want to stop, they don't want to stay quiet. But if we jump immediately into action, you're moving not from a connection to the music, you're moving from your head.
Exactly.
So
I
it
don't know
is
I don't know if I told you that story. This occurred in 8th century in Mecca. And a musician came to town and he said, "Get me your singers. I want to listen to them." So they got a few singers. And he said, "Only one of you is very good." They said, "Why?" He said, "All of you sung from your head. He sung from his heart." See, that's what art
absolutely.
is.
Absolutely. That is true of musicians. It is true of dancers as well. And I think we mentioned this perhaps in our webinar, the webinar we did
Maybe,
together. We
yeah, yeah,
mentioned it somewhere
yeah.
that heart beats technique
Of
every
course,
time.
of course.
You know, you may have a musician that is so good technically, very well prepared, educated, knows how to read and write music, ma'alem ba. But if he doesn't play from the heart,
I know of a musician who everything is in his head. I'm going to play Taksim, and every few seconds I'm going to change Makam. And it is so contrived, so forced, that when he came to Egypt, people said, "What's this? He has a big name for what?" His Taksims are terrible, his composition are very insipid, and his fingers are salty. They're not sweet, they're salty because everything is cerebral, not romantic from the heart. He does not move you. That's the problem.
absolutely. I had in my band situations where musicians would bring friends, like recommend other musicians. If someone was missing, if someone had a problem and they would bring replacements. And I do remember a couple of times at least when a musician that was highly praised technically came to the band and I listened to him and I had to say no. And I had to say no, not because he was not a professional. He was a professional, but bird, cold,
That's cold. That's it.
cold, cold, cold. I say, I cannot dance to this. This is like dancing to a machine.
I
I
know. Yeah,
cannot.
terrible.
Even if he's so well prepared. And with dancers, it's the same. With dancers, it's the same. And we live in an age where dancers are very obsessed with choreographies,
Techniques.
competitions,
Yeah,
vocabulary,
I
and
know.
all of that, has a beautiful side to it. Like we've never had such a well developed technique in Egyptian dance. If we go back like even 10 years or 15 years back, and if we look at the kind of choreographies, the kind of vocabulary, even the kind of pedagogy that is applied to the teaching of Egyptian dance, things have improved so much. You look at dancers like Soher Zaki, Mona Said, Aza Sharif, Nagwa Fouad, and the big ones I had the privilege to study with. And they did not have the amount of vocabulary and choreographies and fancy steps and fancy moves that you see nowadays. They did
Yes,
not have this. Much simpler, much less information, but they could do more with less.
that's it. That's the trick. You don't need all this artifice. You don't need all these gimmicks.
And we are now obsessed with more.
I know.
And we have more and we
We
do
have less.
less.
So true. So true.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like
And
you go to Luxor and listen to Khaireya Mazen
mhm.
and look at the Rababa players. It's
Allah.
phenomenal music, simple, all from the heart. The drummer is so delicate. He's not a nightclub drummer. It's a beautiful drummer that connect to the music. This is Egyptian music at its best.
Sah, sah, sah. Hopefully, we will recover that heart, that simplicity in the sense of essence,
Yes,
the essence. because in the middle of so much information, so much competition, so much vocabulary, so much choreography, so much gimmicks, so much tricks, dancers lose track of what is essential.
Yeah.
They lose track of the soul, the core, the
Very true,
juice.
Juju. Yeah.
So this is, Yani, I don't think this is a problem, but it is a phase, it is a trend,
Yeah, it is a
and
trend. It
it
will
is a
pass.
trend.
Yeah, it will pass.
It will. I believe so. So let's go to the next question. How do we become better listeners? I love this question. How do dancers become better listeners?
Simply listen to a lot and a lot and a lot. And listen to a lot of different styles. And then choose what style fits your personality. Not one style, but a group of styles. But your ear, I always tell the dancer, your ear is the best teacher. Forget your teacher, forget choreography. Your ear will tell you what to do. That's simple.
Mm-hmm. I do think that, at least in my country, so I grew up between Portugal and Spain. And I do remember that we had access to Portuguese and Spanish music. So I grew up listening to flamenco, a lot of flamenco every time I was in Spain, and then a lot of fado, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
our national song.
yeah, yeah.
Curiously, fado and flamenco with connections to Arabic music,
Very good. Yeah,
but that's another conversation. But I remember that either in Spain or in Portugal, we did not have access to another another songs from different cultures. It was very close. Now it's a little bit better, but I remember that as I was growing up, at least in my teenage years, I had to look for um, African music, Latin American music, Indian music. I was always a big fan of Indian music.
beautiful.
I
Beautiful.
love it. Even today, just a couple of days ago, I bought an LP, the vinyl
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of ragas, Indian ragas, because I love
Mhm.
it. And I do think it is important in order to educate our ear that we listen, as you mentioned, to different styles. We
Yes.
don't stay in the same thing every day. So maybe in the morning I listen a little bit of jazz. Then I listen a little bit of Indian music or Egyptian music or flamenco. It is important to stimulate the ear with different musical styles, but
Yes.
also important to stimulate the ear with silence. And this is another thing that when I work with my dancers around musicality, people think it's so strange because I train them to listen to silence and to be comfortable with silence. And they think, what the hell? But isn't this supposed to be about music? Yes, but there is silence in music. There
When
are
it comes
pauses.
to Taksim, a lot of silence is very aesthetic. It's very
Of
beautiful.
course. Of
Then
course.
get another section, then you have a
Of
silence.
course. And
It's
sometimes the
so important.
silence is the most beautiful part of the music.
Yes.
It's the pause. Dun, 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 dun. Dee-da-da, dee-da-da, dee-da-dee-da-da-da. The
Good for you.
pauses,
Yes.
they have such big impact. The silence is so important. So, what I would also tell dancers that want to improve their ear, aside from listening to a lot of different music, not only Egyptian music, different styles of music, it's to practice the art of silence and to recognize the value of silence in
Yes.
music and in their daily life so
Yeah.
that they can pay attention to little sounds. When I'm walking in nature in silence, it's not really silence because you're listening to animals and perhaps the wind, and
Easy.
this level of attention, this level of tuning of the ear. When I am able to go for a walk and listen to the wind or listen to the
The
birds,
birds. I love birds.
This is musical education,
Of course.
although we may not think of it as such. So I always tell the students, get comfortable with silence and value silence, and appreciate the sounds that surround you, sharpen your ear, let the sounds affect you, don't be so indifferent. Also, I think we live so fast. We're living such a fast paced life.
And you miss so much.
Yeah. Including details that go around, sounds that are happening that perhaps could deserve our attention
Oh,
or
yeah.
should deserve our attention. Let's move forward. I have another question here. I can identify a rhythm when it's presented separately, but it's hard to recognize it when it's in a song or musical piece. How do I deal with this challenge?
Very easy. Turn the treble down and the bass up and look at the position of the dum. Could they determine more than the tack? They determine the pattern. The tacks sometimes are part of the fundamental, sometimes they are part of the added attacks, to make the car beautiful, to ornament. So the dooms are what you should look for. Turn your bass up and turn your treble down and listen to the doom. And then it's cyclical. It returns and returns and returns. This is why I'll show you here something very important.
Meanwhile, guys, I'm seeing your comments. I know there are a couple of questions here. In a second, I'm going to read them, okay? You are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. So
I want to show you here. This one here.
yes.
I'm trying to get the right page. Here you are. These are circles, and it tells you that your car comes over and over and over and returns over and over and over. And this notation, I'm translating this book now, was done in Baghdad in the 13th century. And this is taken from poetry. So Safiuddin, the theorist, imported the system of notation of poetry into music. And this system was used all over the Islamic world, even India, until the 20th century. Then linear Western music took over, which is terrible because linear music is not linear, it's cyclical. See? And also, this system, you don't need to read music. With Western music, you have to know how to read music. This one, you don't. Just follow the circle. And that's what I did in my book. And I'll show you the book again. You know it. This book here, and you see all the circles. All the rhythm, Ayub, Zar, Sufi, whatever, all notated with a circle, and 5 seconds it takes only to play any rhythm. It's a very genial method. And Mahmoud Reda, he was so impressed with that system. And he was so humble. He said to me, I gave him a copy of this book. He said, I'm going to study it. Here's Mahmoud Reda, the genius.
Yeah, of course.
He's going to study me.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Very sweet.
That's how it was. So I am going to read a couple of questions. Sure. Dana is asking, I'm going to translate. So she's writing in Spanish. Guys, forgive me if I'm a little bit slower than usual. Perhaps in the West, we've complicated the subject. In some occasions, I used to listen to some teachers saying that the doom should be danced with a certain accent of the hip, and the tack should be danced with the upper body. And with these rules, we feel tight, we feel limited. Dana also mentions, um, so we can talk about having a balance between the knowledge of the technique and the feeling, um, in our instinctive way to listen to the music. Oh, okay. I know what Dana means by this. So let's go by points. The first point is the question of too many rules. And I've also heard about teachers teaching people that when they listen to the ney, they do certain kinds of movements. When they listen to the kamanga, they do certain kinds of movements. And then when they listen to the tabla, they are moving this. When they listen to the doof, they are moving that. And with all due respect, and I do believe that there are, pioneering methods that may work out of the box, but I don't think this is one of them. And sometimes by trying to help people, we complicate and we mess them up even more. So, from my experience and from my perspective, as a student, as a professional dancer, as someone who worked for such a long time with Egyptian musicians and with Egyptian people for Egyptian audiences, and aside from all the work I've done around the world in different nationalities and for different people, I can assure you that, then again, although formulas are attractive, because so many dancers don't want to take risks, they would rather have someone telling them what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
When I listen to the tabla, tell me what to do. What do I do? What am I allowed to do? Because this is safer, especially for someone who does not belong to the culture.
Yeah.
So she may be afraid, am I going to mess this up? Am I going to do something that is not correct, not respectful? So there is a lot of second guessing. But according to what I know, and this is how Egyptian musicians operate, there is no right way to dance the tabla or to dance the doom or to dance the tek. There is no right way to dance the kanun or the ney or the kamanga or the accordion. Everyone will feel it differently. It doesn't mean that you don't need to educate yourself.
Yeah.
Now that's another subject. I studied Egyptian dance and folklore. I was not born knowing Egyptian dance and folklore. I studied classical ballet. I studied flamenco. I studied African dance, Argentinian tango, jazz, many things. That does not mean I'm not using my instinct. One thing is education, one thing is instinct.
That's right.
The more educated I am, the more free and confident I feel in using my instinct, because I already have a lot of information backing me up. So sometimes there is also the opposite, which is dancers believing that the only thing they need is instinct. I don't need to study. I don't need to practice. I don't need to know anything. I'm talented. I'm going to follow my heart. And then it's a disaster. It's just nonsense. I always give this example to my students. Let's imagine that I want to dance Japanese dance or Chinese dance. Okay. I know the music because I'm someone who loves different kinds of music. So I listen to Chinese music every once in a while, and Japanese as well, traditional Japanese music. I know a little bit about Japanese dance and Chinese dance, but I don't know enough. I'm not educated enough to dance it correctly. Can I use my instinct? If we put some Japanese music on, can I use my instinct? Yeah, I can use my instinct. I can do something. It doesn't mean I'm going to do something interesting, because I don't have enough education about that context, about that language. So a good combination of education about the music, about the dance, about the culture, and instinct makes a great result. It is not
Wonderful.
either one or the other.
Wonderful. I just repeat the words of a very famous Egyptian writer, Ibn al-Tahan, and he lived in 11th century Cairo. And he said it's important to have ilm and amal. Ilm is the knowledge and theory. Amal is the practice and the instinct. You have to have both, because if you only know the practice and you get stuck somewhere, you need theory and knowledge to get out of it. This happens when you play taksim. If you just play and don't know how to get back to the original maqam, you'll be in trouble. This is where the knowledge comes in. Next, when you dance, dance to the music, don't dance to the instrument. Follow the melody, don't follow the instrument. Unless it's a drum solo, then this is a different style. And then doom and tag, I'll leave that for Juju to the side. What do you do with the doom and the tag? I mean, you cannot separate them. It's silly. It's silly.
Now, before I read a couple more questions, let's jump into the workshop that we are going to offer on the 19th and on the 20th of November. This is going to be a workshop focused on Leylet Hob. Leylet Hob. Now, I want to explain why Leylet Hob, right? Because we are going to start in December a course that is available at Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School, Musicality for Oriental Dancers. And in that course, we're going to cover different musical pieces. One of them is Leylet Hob. Now, I'm going to ask you, why Leylet Hob? And then I'm going to tell them from the perspective of the dancer, why Leylet Hob. But from your perspective, from the musician's perspective, why are we teaching our dancers Leylet Hob? Why are we focusing on this particular piece?
Because it is part of a trend in the 60s onward to have the introduction being very long. Earlier Kulthum songs, the introduction was very short, sometimes just 8 bars, like the introduction of Zakaria Ahmed, Sumbati. They're very brief, and to give you a feel of the maqam, a feel of the song to come. With the 60s onward, the introduction has been elongated. It can take 10 minutes as opposed to 1 minute maximum. And the idea was to have a lot of contrasting sections. Western music, Arabic music, slow, fast, different maqam, different rhythm. There's just so much in the introduction. We're not talking about the song, which is even more complicated. We're talking just about the introduction. And you do that, then you know about Nahawand, you know about, Maqam Nahawand, Maqam Bayati, Maqam Husseini, when they do the Taqsim. You get to know about no rhythm, and that's sort of the introduction does not have a particular pattern on the drum, and it's just very rough bowing, imitating Western orchestras to sort of, hey, here's the music, wake up, wake up. Tan ta tan 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 pam 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 pam. Sort of very Germanic. Wake up, guys! Music is coming, and the bowing is very rough. That's not Egyptian bowing. The fingering, the Egyptian violin is sliding like the rababa, but this one is articulate, very Western style. Then suddenly Abdullah said, "Hey, I'm Egyptian." Tum pum pa pa pum pa pa.
I love the hands.
I love it. And this is where people clap. They don't clap at the introduction. The Western one, they don't clap. So you have this one in Maqam Nahawand, and then there is a break, different type of Nahawand, and then there is a break and it goes to Bayati. And then you have Masmoudi, Saghir, then you have Malfouf, then you have 6/8 Iskandarani, back to 4/4, but this time much faster. And then you end up with the Masmoudi Kabir, the 8/4 of all dances. All this just in 5 to 10 minutes, depending how many times you repeat the section. So if you study this piece, you're going to realize that, 4 maqam, 4 drum beats, Eastern versus Western styles. There's a lot to learn.
Super rich.
It's very rich, yeah.
And let's not forget it's Muhammad Abdul Wahab.
Yes.
So he was the composer of Leylet Hob, and so it's not surprising we can find these Western elements, these Eastern elements. So he's jumping from one thing to the other.
Well, his patron was the very famous poet, Amir Shara. And he told him, forget this Ottoman stuff. we're being colonized by the West. Let us modernize our music. So we take him to listen to the symphony, to the opera. So a lot of parts of Abdul Wahab songs are just taken from Verdi, like the March of the Sorceresses. It's took it exactly as it is from Verdi's opera. It's a very beautiful tune.
You know what Mahmoud Reda used to call him?
No.
Smart thief.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Every time we would listen to Mahmoud loved Muhammad Abdul Wahab, and he choreographed a few pieces, not much, but a few pieces from Abdul Wahab. And every time we were listening to it or he was working on it, he would tell me, Allah, what a smart thief he was.
Yeah.
Harami Zaki, awi, very intelligent thief.
Yeah.
But still, some copy pastes are quite obvious.
Yes, some are successful, some are
Yeah.
not.
Yes,
The
yeah,
Little
I
Atrash
agree.
is very successful
Yeah,
at pasting, and it flows seamlessly. Abdul Wahab is hit and miss. Malik Hamdi also hit and miss, but not for Little Atrash. Even Sombat is hit and miss.
yes. From the perspective of the dancer, Leylat Hob, aside from all that you mentioned, so we're talking about different mekamet, different rhythms,
Yeah.
the Western flavor, the Eastern flavor, so beautifully intertwined. But what we do have, aside from all that, from the perspective of the dance, is that the music being so sophisticated and so rich is going to ask you to stand by its side by side. So it's going to push you technically, musically, and emotionally.
Yes.
Otherwise, you are eaten by the music. I usually use this expression because it's exactly how I see it. When the music is here and the dancer is here, so I cannot catch it, I cannot read it. The music is stronger than the dancer. It eats the dancer alive. The dancer disappears. It becomes obsolete, invisible.
Yeah.
So what Lilith Hope does for an Oriental dancer is that it pulls you to its level. It forces you to go to its level
Good.
technically, musically, and emotionally. And of course, something that we mentioned before, the question of contrast,
Yeah.
which is very obvious in this piece. It is very important for dancers, especially for performers. I always tell this to the students who want to perform. I tell them, watch out for contrast, especially these days, because if you want to catch the eyes of the audience, you need contrast.
Yep.
It cannot get boring. You cannot be unidimensional. It cannot be the same from, no, you have to bring something new and surprising at every, I was going to say second, not second, but
Yeah.
at every minute, and this music does not leave you any other choice. It's full of contrasts. So you don't even have to make anything up. You just have to listen and read the music with the body. That's it.
Yeah, and also Randa Kamel said that it's easier to dance to this modern music, very difficult to dance to old music. And the case in point is the Hawanim. One maqam, one rhythm, no contrast whatsoever. But embedded in it, there is so much flirtation, and you have to unlock this as a dancer. Add to the music with your body. Your movement is rhythm. The dancer's rhythm add to the beauty of the music. And that's very difficult. And you just have to watch Sami Gamal, Tahia Karyoka, Naima Akif, Zuba Al Alma, if you had the chance to see her in some movies. These were really colossus of dances.
I think what you're speaking about is connected to the emotional density of the music as well, right?
Yeah, that too.
So when we speak about having a piece of music that is very rich and having to respond to it technically in terms of movement, in terms of musicality, in terms of emotion, we're also talking about a music that is composed and interpreted in such a passionate, intense, emotional way that the dancer has to find a way to match that.
Yes, exactly.
I have to
Yeah,
match it somehow.
yeah,
It's not enough to know what to do, physically speaking. That's a part of it, but that's just a part of it. Then, how do I bring that intensity, that emotional intensity, that warmth? There is a kind of heat. It's warm, sohn. It's not something cold. It is something intense. It is fire. There is
yeah,
a kind of
very much.
fire there. The dancer must be able to access that fire and to bring it to the dance, that kind of intensity, aliveness. And that is not easy. I mean, also,
Yeah.
it's going to move many things. It's going to move how vulnerable we are, how able are we in the expression of our emotions. There are so many dancers who don't know how to express emotions. And it may sound strange, but when you think about it, most of us in our daily lives, we're not very comfortable expressing emotions. Most of us are not. So when it comes to dance and when it comes with this kind of music, this kind of richness and intensity, a dancer does not know what to do. What do you mean emotional intensity?
Yeah.
How do I mean, I understand it, but how do I do it? So it can be also a personal challenge. It's not only a dance challenge. It's a personal challenge. Because then again, if I do everything perfectly on a physical level, but if the emotional intensity, the fire is not there, something will be missing.
Yes, very
Something
much.
will not be matching the music.
Yeah. And also, don't forget the composer composed it from his heart. It's not brain work, it's heart work. From the heart to the heart. Heart to the brain won't work. It has to be heart to the heart. And then your ear and your heart will tell you what to do with your body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's invite people for our workshop. Then again, we're
Right.
going to meet on Saturday and Sunday, 19th and 20th of November. This is a free live and recorded workshop focused on musicality, specifically on Leylet Hob. So what we're going to do is we're going to break the instrumental intro of Leylet Hob down from a musical point of view. That's Mr. George's part. The mekamet and the rhythms and anything that is important for you to know musically speaking, the structure of the music, so that you have it here and here and here. And then I will break it down from a dance perspective. What do you
Fantastic.
do with that? What do you do with each phrase? Right? So this is going to be a musicality challenge and a dance challenge as well. These are two
Combined.
sessions,
Fantastic.
2 live sessions with us both next weekend. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link for you to save your spot in the comments to this live session. For the ones who are going to watch the replay of this Juju live session in my YouTube channel, I'm going to post the link in the description box below the video. And for the ones who are going to watch it in my Instagram, I'm going to have it in my bio or in my profile. Okay.
Fantastic.
So join us and be aware, because we will be starting very soon our course on musicality. This is another thing. The ones who want more information about that, I'm also going to post the link because the course has been launched. And we're going to start with our opening masterclass in December. And this is going to be an extensive course where we're going to break down different musical pieces, including Leylet Hob, but not only. And this is for hardcore Egyptian dance lovers.
Also, this kind of workshop does not happen often. You either have musician or you have dancer. This one, we're cooperating. So don't miss it.
It's going to be
often. Yeah.
very special. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're bringing our different expertises, our different backgrounds,
Yes.
our different sensibilities. So it's really going to be special. I am pretty sure of it. And the ones who are going to join us are not going to regret it. So once again, you will find the link to join us in the mentioned places. And for the ones who want to jump directly into the course, Musicality for Oriental Dances, I'm also going to post the link for more information, either in the comments or in the description box or in my bio. Okay, you already know where to find these links. Thank you once again, Mr. Jorge, for
Welcome.
this
My pleasure.
session. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I think
Me
if we
too.
lived in the same city, we would just go to Ahwa, Baladi,
Wild.
Haga, Magnuna Keda, and we would drink shay and smoke shisha and stay long hours talking about these things. I
Yeah.
think people can feel like we enjoy this.
Yeah. That's the only reason to do it. You don't enjoy it, don't do it.
Yes, yes, I believe so. Let me check if we have any more questions here in the comments, because I don't want to leave anyone behind before we close. I'm saying hi to Sandra, saying hi to Jamila, to Dana. Thank you guys for dropping by. Thank you so much. I'm just going to read a comment from Jamila. She's saying, this is long, so please just wait and internalize the lyrics on your time. Is not speaking of music necessarily, but the esoteric speaks to the concept about the significance of silence. Okay, Jamila is talking about silence. We mentioned the importance of silence in this Juju live session, and I will mention it again in our workshop, that's for sure, because silence and pause is very important for an Oriental dancer. If you don't know how to pause, you don't know how to move. Okay, so we're gonna see exactly what I mean at our workshop. Thank you again, Mr. Jorge. We're gonna say goodbye
My
for
pleasure.
now. It was a pleasure, and I will see you on the 19th and on the 20th of November. Thank you, guys. See you there.
Bye,
A
guys.
big kiss.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.